evening, and welcome to Crime Time here at the Culpeper Library. My name is Jeannie Nail, and I work at the Adult Services Desk. And we're thrilled that you can join us here tonight. We also want to thank some special partners. The special thanks to the Culpeper Media Network and to the Culpeper Police Department who are partnering with us this evening. Tonight's presentation is being recorded and is being live captioned for our audience members who need that assistance. We have our two special guests, Detective Sisk and Detective Brooking. MPO Detective Timothy Sisk began his law enforcement career in 1994 with the Culpeper County Sheriff's Office. He's worked in the jail as a court bailiff, investigator, dare instructor, and patrol deputy prior to joining the Culpeper Police Department in 2000. During his tenure at the Culpeper Police Department, he has worked in patrol and community policing, conducting traffic enforcement and motor carrier safety enforcement. He's been an acting supervisor, served on the vehicle crash reconstruction team, and is currently assigned to the criminal investigation and serves as the drone team coordinator. MPO Detective Sisk loves forensic studies and has a desire to learn new technology and collecting evidence. He's attended numerous forensic schools over the years and enjoys instructing new officers with new techniques. MPO Detective Sisk was born and raised in Culpeper and loves giving back. He's an active member of the Easter View Band Boosters, Athletic Boosters, and Choral Boosters. He's married and he and his wife have 2 children. Richard Brooking began his police career in 1986, working at both the Culpeper Police Department and the Culpeper County Sheriff's Office. He's worked as a patrol officer and supervisor, drug investigator, and canine handler. The majority of his career has been spent as a general detective, working cases that range from bad checks to murder and everything in between. Currently, MPO Detective Brooking teaches crime scene investigation at the Regional Police Academy. In 2012, he attended the 9-week Virginia Division of Forensic Science Academy, where he learned advanced techniques for crime scene processing and investigation. He works with Adult Protective Service and with Child Protective Service, assisting senior adults and children who have been the victims of various crimes. One of the biggest frustrations or disappointments that he has is not being able to help all the victims of the cases that he is assigned due to the lack of evidence or suspects. NPO Detective Brooking is married, and he and his wife have 6 children and 5 grandchildren. He enjoys time with his family, traveling, working outdoors, working out, and church-related activities. He's also passionate about trying to help people whose lives have been affected by addiction. In 2018, he retired from the Culpeper Police Department, then returned in 2019 as a part-time detective. The evening will begin with an icebreaker, which looks amazing. It will then lead into a talk about a non-violent true crime event here in the town that has been solved. And then we will be able to take questions at the end. Please welcome our special guest.
Good evening, and thank you guys a lot for being here. It's a rainy night, and it's nice to see this kind of crowd here. Now, you guys are our guinea pigs. It's the first time we've done something like this, so we're going to be working together through these couple things. So we want to start off. Thank you for the introduction, and I appreciate you going through those. So I think you know a little bit about myself and Detective Sisk. What we're going to first start off to do is let you guys see how you would work a case. So you guys are actually going to be going through this case. We'll give you go through some slides, and then there'll be some questions at the very end and see how you guys would handle it. And then we'll go into a live case that we've handled, and we'll go into a little more detail that in just a second.
Oh, my turn?
Your turn.
All right. We really wanted to test your skills to start out with. We want you to think about something. You're assigned to the criminal investigative section, and a local restaurant calls at closing time to report suspicious activity. A worker advises they heard yelling and needed the police to respond. So you get there. You arrive on location. The employee tells you that he heard what sounded like a couple of pops or firecrackers. He also tells you that he saw one person walking down the street holding their side and then they disappeared. So, things to start thinking about. What questions do you ask? What should you be thinking? And is there anything in the area that would change your mindset? So what should be some questions going through your head that you should be asking the employee that's giving you the information? Yes, ma'am.
Could you give us a description?
Perfect.
Why don't you repeat it over the microphone? Just so you
The answer that she gave was, could you give a description? Perfect. Because why do you think that's important? Because 90% of the time, patrol officers or ourselves, we probably pass the suspect coming into the scene. So giving an accurate description of what the person is wearing is very important to us. Any other questions that you're thinking about? Yes, ma'am, in the back.
Around what time did you hear the pops?
Good one. About what time did you hear the pops? Which direction were they coming from? All right. What other questions? Oh, we're not going to let you just sit there tonight. So this is interactive, okay?
Did you see anyone else? Were there any other people?
You don't count. Did you see anyone else? Was there any other people involved? Somebody else had their hand up over here. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, also just immediately, which way did he go?
Okay. Which way did they go?
I'm going to throw just a couple in here. Go ahead, sir. I don't want to.
Yeah, did anybody else hear the shots? Were there other witnesses?
Very good. For those who didn't hear it, he asked if anybody else hear the shots or are there other witnesses out there. And that kind of goes, as we were preparing these questions, one of the things, I came up with a couple answers just to kind of throw out there at you guys. We want to make sure we arrive at the scene safely. And one of the things they tell us is if we don't get there safely, we're not able to help anybody. The second thing is we want to check for victims and we want to check for suspects. And like you guys have said a couple times, we want to look for witnesses. And we want to try to protect any evidence that was there. And then we start thinking about that yellow tape that you see on the table there, the crime scene tape. And then we want to start seeing who's coming and going out of our crime scene. So that gets a little technical into the police stuff, but we want you guys to start thinking that you're the investigator here, and this is how you guys are going to help us process this scene.
Now, the last question up here was, is there anything in the area that would change your mindset? What do you think that we're kind of talking about?
Festival going on?
Okay.
Fireworks?
Is it the 3rd of July? Is it the 5th of July? We live in Culpeper. Anything's possible. But that's a great question. What else? Yes, ma'am.
Anything on the ground?
What was that?
Things on the ground?
Do we see anything on the ground? Good. All right. Observations. Changing scenario a little bit. You're looking around the area and you notice what appears to be bullet casings. Goes right back there with what you said. Broken glass with a red stain on it. Why do you think we say red stain? Might not be blood. So we use red stain a lot. You look further down the alley and you notice a gun laying in the street. So, where's your mindset now? What's happened? Okay. Hopefully, calling for backup, absolutely. Hopefully, they're already en route. What do you think now is in your head? What did the employee tell you when you got there? What did he see? A guy walking in the alley doing what? Holding his side. What do we think happened? Okay. So now what? What would be the first thing that you would do?
Secure the weapon that's lying on the ground.
Oh. Close. We want to secure the entire area. As you see up here with the yellow caution tape, the crime scene tape, we use that a lot. we could have inner perimeters and outer perimeters, depending on how large our crime scene is. So we want to make sure that we cover that entire area. If they said they went down the alleyway, do you think the alleyway could be an area we want to cordon off? Because we can always expand it. So we can always make our stuff bigger, but we want to make sure that we've got everything covered at the time. All right, you want to, we'll go to the next one.
What's your next slide?
So now what? How would you begin to work and process this scene? So what would you start with?
Wouldn't you go down the alleyway to see if somebody's laying there?
Absolutely. Just as Richard said in the beginning, we want to make sure, check on our victims. Is there any victims there? And our first and utmost thing is to make sure we get any medical attention that's needed. So absolutely. And that's going to be part of securing the scene, because we're actually going to do a walkthrough to see what we have also. Any other?
Clear the area. If any bystanders are standing by, clear the area. Make sure everybody's safe.
Okay, that's good, but what about those bystanders? What can those bystanders be? Witnesses. So we want to make sure that we talk to every bystander there, because they might be able to tell us stuff. One of the things that Richard and I talk about all the time, an investigation is a jigsaw puzzle. It's like 20,000 pieces, and you have to put it together. It could take days, it could take months, some cases it could take years to actually develop and put things together. So we tell everybody, when you hear something, say something, because you might be holding that one piece that we need to complete that puzzle. Anything else on this one?
Yeah, let me see that.
Your turn.
So I'm going to put you guys more in the crime scene mode right here. We've got our witnesses, which is very good. We've got, we've got our crime scene tape up, and we're protecting our crime scene. We've got what we call a crime scene log, so we're registering who's coming and going from our crime scene. Why do you think that's important? Follow up, that's a good idea. But also, go ahead.
I think sometimes the bad guy will linger around.
That's a really good point. You never know who's coming and going from there, and if you got somebody's name or something like that. They're all really good points. And also the other thing comes down to, we got that nasty word that we don't like sometimes, the word court. So the court sometimes will ask, who was in and out of there? Did they contaminate your crime scene? So that's one reason we want to have that log. That's the reason it's important. A couple things to think about in putting your investigative minds is we want to photograph, and Tim and I were talking just a few minutes ago. I'd say a big percentage of our investigations revolves around a camera. And every scene we go to, everything we do pretty much involves taking pictures of the crime scene and of everything around. And we'll have hundreds of pictures for what seems like a minimal crime scene, but you can't take too many pictures. Other thing we would do, we would sketch the scene. Other thing we would do is we would take measurements. You see that like a 100-foot tape measure up there, and then possibly video, and that's where possibly the drone would come in, and then we would begin to collect evidence. So they're just those couple things to think about in your detective minds is, you would become photographers, and then, with the rest of the things we said.
Yeah, Richard's absolutely right. One of our most important things is photography. Of course, Richard went through the forensic school. I've been through several photography schools. It's amazing what you can make that camera do. And it's amazing what you can go back and look at that camera and realize, oh, I didn't see that at first. So that picture will tell us 1,000 different stories when we can go back and sit down and actually analyze that. And one of the things is what a lot of people don't realize when it comes to photography. One photo is good enough, right? No. One of the schools that I just attended here recently was a school on footwear impressions. So how many photos do you think of a footwear impression that you're supposed to be taking? 12. 12. So I was a little astonished at that one too, but 12 actual photographs of one footwear impression. So a lot of photos, and all that is important as we go along.
Sorry, I'm just counting.
Well, actually, because when you get there, you're taking an overall, you're taking a mid-range, then you're taking a close-up. There's 3. Then you're taking 1 from each side, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then you're taking an over top, so there's 8. And then you're going back with flashlight and doing it all over again. Because light actually will amplify, we'll talk about that when we come to the gadgets here in a little bit, but light amplifies a lot of things that we cannot see with our naked eyes. Are you ready for the next one? Mm-hmm. All right, so going back to thinking about this, what should we collect? What should we physically take as evidence?
Based on the crime scene that we gave you. Okay.
Okay? Casings. Now, why are casings important?
Because it'll tell you what type of gun it is, and if it could have fingerprints on them.
Bingo. Good.
What else besides fingerprints this day and time?
DNA.
There you go. Very good.
She makes me watch a lot of murder shows.
That's good.
I like those too.
Yeah, we watch those too, and we actually do this every day. What else?
Very good.
Very good. That was very good in case you didn't hear her asking exactly how many pops they heard and how far apart were the pops. That's very good. That's thinking. Yes.
You can also compare the casings to the guns.
Very, very good.
Very good because of the firing pin, just like a fingerprint. All right, lady in the back.
Does the restaurant have surveillance?
Ha ha! I was waiting for somebody to say that. Very good. Surveillance cameras. Everybody's got a camera these days, somewhere. Ring cameras are the best thing that was ever invented when it comes to solving stuff for us. Ring cameras, all the technology and stuff that are out there, yes, we definitely use it. Was that what you were going to say? Okay.
Footprints?
Footprints, because why would footprints be important? What
Let's say-
can,
let me
what
back
can we
up.
match it to?
Well, let's say shoe impressions.
Okay.
Give you an idea of the size of the person.
Very good.
Their weight? Because if you find a suspect and you get a search warrant, you can, if the shoes are there in the house, and you can compare it to if it was at the crime scene.
Are you a detective? That's very good what you just said. Very, very good.
Everybody-
You repeat that? Yeah.
Yeah, she said that we could get a search warrant, compare any shoes or anything that we find in the house. Because one of the things is every one of us in this room, we walk differently. We're going to have different wear patterns on our shoes. We could have the same exact pair of shoes, but I promise you the wear patterns are going to be different. And how we walk, how we carry ourselves, the weight of the person is going to be entirely different. So yes, that's very good. All right.
You're gonna take a sample of the red substance to have it tested to see what it is exactly.
Exactly.
Very good. Yes, ma'am.
Now, the other important question is, what would you put the items in, or how would you package these? We can just shove them all in one bag, right? We can't? No.
Why wouldn't you do that? What did you say? Contamination, yes.
Yep, contamination, because we don't want to mix things up because it could be from different people, etc. So, Richard's got a shirt up here, and this is fake blood, by the way. But Richard has a shirt up here, so if that was part of our evidence, will we stick that in a plastic bag? Why? Why wouldn't we stick it in a plastic bag?
Because the moisture,
Oh, she's good. Because of the moisture, all right? If we have an item that's wet, do we want to put that in a plastic bag? No. Why? Mold. Condensation from the bag will start actually growing mold on our items. So, paper. What are some other, how will we package the the reddish stain, excuse me. See, caught me for a minute. The reddish stain, how will we package that?
Would you take each individual piece of glass and put it in its own package, just in case there might be two different things going on, or would you put it all in the same? I guess depending on how far out it's spread, maybe?
What you're saying, it would not hurt to do that. It would not hurt to do that. That's a very good point. You possibly could do it that way. I would probably put it in one package if it was close together, but if it was spread out, I think that would be very good. What else? Just instead of putting you guys through the test on this one, what we would do is, if we found reddish stain on the sidewalk or the alleyway that we think our victim ran through, we would use these swabs, basically like a Q-tip swab. If the blood was, or if the reddish stain was dry, we would use distilled water, and we would package that in one of these boxes here. That would go into a different envelope, and it'd be taken to our forensic lab. And the forensic lab will, try to develop a DNA profile, and maybe that'll lead to, if it's a suspect's blood, it may lead us to the suspect, or we'll say that it definitely came from our victim. Other things we would collect, if we found clothing, we would package that in paper. We would put the gun in a gun box, and then we would use the evidence tape, red evidence tape, and seal that all up. There's so many rules that we have to do before we actually submit things to our forensic lab. Yes, sir.
Do you have to establish chain of custody?
Very much so. It actually is probably be too difficult to see from here, but our bags here actually got kind of a chain of custody thing on here. They're pre-printed, and yes, that's very important. That's very good. Very good point. Anybody else? You guys have done a great job with working through this case, and especially not have everything in front of you. Yes, sir.
I assume you keep a log of all your evidence as you collect it?
We do. Yes, sir. It's very important. We put the date and time we collect it because that all comes into play. Good question.
One of the things, going back to the evidence, we work as a team. There's not usually, especially if it's a large crime scene, it's not usually one of us out. It's usually 5, 6 of us that are actually out working it. So I'm jumping ahead, but that's one of the things that's going to be on one of the slides, is basically, what do you want your team to do? Because usually, I think I do photography a lot. And usually I'm the one that's also responsible for picking up the evidence and collecting the evidence. Because if I'm the only one doing that, then guess what? I'm the only link in the chain. We don't have to worry about it. When we start having 4 or 5 people doing the same job, then we have 4 or 5 people in the chain that we have to explain why they're there. So each person kind of has a job and what they are assigned to do. Told you it was down here somewhere. So besides processing a crime scene, what would you get your partners and your coworkers to do? Because again, this is a team. Like I said, it's usually never one of us. If it's something large, it's usually the whole unit that's out. That we come out and we all kind of have our areas that we go into and things that we do. But it's a team effort.
So I just wanted, you're supposed to call the local hospitals to see whether anybody has checked themselves in with an injury to their side?
Great question. Great. And that would be something that somebody would have done, was to contact any local medical facility. Has anybody come in? Now, one of the advantages to that is if somebody comes in to a local medical center like our hospital, then they are mandated reporters. And if it's a gunshot, guess who they're calling? They're calling us. So they will let us know that, hey, they just had a gunshot victim that came into the ER. So that's another piece of that puzzle that could come back to us and we go, okay, now we're going to have to break off a team member to do what? Go to the hospital. All right. So super easy, right? Piece of cake. All right. It's just as easy as you see on TV, right? Not even close. These are all shows that every one of us in here has probably watched. The only difference is, I promise you, for doing this for 30 years, we don't solve it in 30 minutes. Okay? We don't get it to court in 30 minutes. We don't have an Abby who can sit in the lab and give us all the information in 10 minutes. It doesn't happen that way. Realistically, DNA and stuff to come back from the lab's about 8 months. So it does take some time. Fingerprints coming back for the lab is what, 6 months now, ish?
Yeah, ish.
So things take time. So it's not like we see on TV. I wish it was, but it's not even close to what we see on television. So something to think about, and we're going to talk about it again in another slide, but just remember, Every time you enter a room, you leave something, and every time that you leave a room, you take something. So tonight, when y'all all came in this room, you left identifiers. So when you leave, you left stuff behind, whether it be skin cells, hair follicles, stuff of that nature, shoe impressions that we talked about. You left all that here. So that's what we're looking for, is we're trying to find the smallest thing to solve the big picture. Evidence is everywhere. And it's nothing for us to get at a crime scene. It could take hours. We've had scenes that we've gotten on at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and 4 o'clock the next afternoon, we're still there. So it could take a while to actually process everything properly. Your turn.
Okay. This is going back, but actually, this could be your crime prevention tip for the night as well, too. So I'll help Julia out with this one. Several years ago, and some of this is up on the slide, but I'll go into a little bit more detail. Several years ago, there was a person going around over the course of 1 month, and they were breaking into cars in parking lots. Some of the cars were here in the Southgate Shopping Center. I believe one was over by Gold's Gym, one was over by Safeway. They were also going to other gyms as well and breaking into cars there. And then I believe they went to one of the local church and broke into a car there. Now, this took a little bit, but what this ended up leading up to is this person was trying to, what do you think this person was breaking into cars for? Give me a guess what it was. Just throw something out.
Electronics.
Money, electronics, it's all good. Yes, sir.
Credit cards?
Credit cards, absolutely. Yeah, some of the stuff is up there, like I said. But what do you think he was trying to?
He
What do you
cheated.
Yeah. What do you think he was trying to? What do you think maybe been underlying of all of this? There you go. And unfortunately, that's just that's even more prevalent today, than it was probably even when this case was, and it just keeps going that way. So this person was going around breaking into vehicles, and if you found an unlocked vehicle, that was fair game. That person would go into that. If the vehicle was locked, he would use either a tool or use something, use his body in some way and get into the car that way. But one of the things that he was doing is that he was looking for ladies that left their pocketbooks on the front seat or down on the floorboard. Somebody left their computer out on the front seat. Somebody left their cell phone out on the seat. Somebody that may have left a wallet sitting right there in plain view. And, this person was good enough that he was able to do it quickly without being seen at first. So we'll go into a little bit more detail with that.
Ready for the next one?
Yeah. Well, no, back up just for a second. I'm sorry.
You? Okay.
One of the things to kind of keep in mind here, but if you look at that bottom one, the suspect was found to be using the victim's credit cards at gas stations or other stores and ATMs. So what do you think that's leaving behind? It's video surveillance is leaving, and basically, even a simpler word, he's leaving behind evidence for our case. So go ahead. And like we mentioned earlier, like with any crime scene, each vehicle the suspect broke into, he would leave behind evidence. All right. Based on the information given in the previous slides, answer the following questions. So we're going to use your detective skills. Person broke into vehicles. What evidence do you think he left behind?
Fingerprints.
Very good. Fingerprints. What?
Hair, maybe?
Hair. Very good. You said blood. Blood. DNA. I heard that. What else? Clothing. Anything else? You guys have already talked about the video. That's very good. We mentioned that a couple times. So that goes along with the story. Go to the next slide, Tim. I think we kind of answered that, but what other evidence could possibly be available once the suspect left the vehicle and continued his crime spree? And I think I'm going more so into the fact that this was where he used the ATM cards and with that. All right, here we get into more of when we finally caught up with him. So this, like I said, this went on over the course of a month. the last vehicle he broke into, there happened to be a witness. And doesn't always happen this way. The witness was able to give us a direction of travel. He saw the vehicle being broken into, he saw the guy leaving, he saw the vehicle he was in, was able to get a decent description of it. We already had a basic description of it based on some video and stuff. And we were able to tell what direction of travel he was going. So when the bad guy was leaving, it happened to be one of our officers was coming to work. And he was able to follow this vehicle out and get help from the sheriff's office. So, thankfully to the witnesses, thankfully to an officer being in the right spot at the right time, thanks to the sheriff's office coming and helping us out with it, we were able to stop this guy. And so what type of evidence do you think you found was found in his vehicle? Okay.
All right, the tools, good answer. The what? Bingo, stuff he stole. Now, just backtracking for real quick. We stopped the vehicle. What do you think we might need to get inside of that car? Search warrant, okay? So paperwork, there's a lot of it in this job. A lot of paperwork. All right.
Probable cause.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the probable cause will actually give us the information that we need to write the search warrant. And then the search warrant will go in front of the magistrate, then the magistrate will either grant us the search warrant or deny the search warrant. If they deny it, then we go back, consult with the Commonwealth Attorney, see what else we need to go into it, then we can go back again. So it could be a process.
Would you normally ask their consent to search the car?
You can, absolutely. You can ask for consent. We do have a consent form that we carry with us that they can actually sign. And at any time, they can actually recant that consent. So at any time, they can tell you, nope, I'm done. Okay? But yes, that is good.
So with the probable cause thing, if you see something, you still have to get the search warrant?
Now we're getting into plain view. Can we hire her?
Got quite a few good detectives in here.
Yeah. There is a thing as a plain view search. You hit the nail on the head of seeing it. We like to err on the side of caution, and even with seeing it, we like to step back, slow things down, take the time, go through the legal process, still write the search warrant. That way we know if we find anything else in that car, it's all protected.
So, is all this happening during a traffic stop, and where's the suspect in the meantime?
The suspect was there with the vehicle. Based on that, the suspect ended up, he needed help, and he really knew he needed help for a drug habit. And that's ultimately what was driving him, over the course of time. He wasn't even from this area. We were able to get good descriptions of the vehicles. There are certain things that stood out about that particular vehicle, and we were able to find those things in the vehicle based on, the past break-ins. And the other thing he did was that we were able to go back and see where he had used credit, the victim's credit cards. So, the victims take a heck of a hit with this. Not only do they have to replace, go through all the bank processes, replace all the credit cards, cancel things and, replace them. They also have to, whatever the item was in some cases, I'm sure there's some sentimental stuff there they wouldn't be able to replace because, it's been discarded. Also the amount of money that they lost, just different things like that. And I think if anybody here has been a victim of a crime, whenever something happens, whether it's your house being broken into, your car broken into, somebody taking something that doesn't belong to them from you, you feel like you've been violated in any sort of way. And that feeling's a difficult feeling to replace. It takes time to heal from things like that. So that's one of the things, that go along with somebody does this as well. Thankfully nobody was hurt in these particular situations. But there were a lot of people that were put in a lot of different, put out of their way in a lot of different ways, and had a lot of, have in some cases, in one particular case, there was a fairly expensive pocketbook or purse that had to be replaced.
So as soon as you do this traffic stop, do you arrest him right away, or do you have to go through this whole warrant thing before you know?
Based on that particular case, we probably could arrest him right away because we found stuff that belonged to him, and I brought the cases with me, but I believe at that particular time we arrested him for the one that happened that day. We were able to backtrack and tie him to those. before I go into the evidence here, but actually this case even goes further than Culpeper. This guy was doing the same stuff up in Northern Virginia. We were getting calls from Prince William. We were getting calls from Spotsylvania. So he was going all around doing this. So this just wasn't a Culpeper thing. This was somebody that was very desperate, had a very bad drug habit, and was just going around, just didn't really care who he was hurting in order to be able to get to supply the habit. Yes, ma'am.
So while you're holding that, do you hold him while you're getting your search warrant and stuff for the magistrate there on the scene?
Thankfully, you have enough people that you have somebody doing a little bit of everything. So he's under arrest. You have somebody else working on a search warrant to search the vehicle. You got tow companies coming to tow the vehicle so we can, go through. It's a whole lot of different moving parts with all of that. But no, it's a good question. It's a way to think ahead. What else? I think there was something else I was going to say. But anyway, we'll get I'll let Tim hold the microphone here, and we'll go through some of the things that we kind of found as far as the case goes. So what did you think happened? This was his shirt. We're just going to pretend this was a shirt that he was wearing. What do you see on this shirt that may help us out as far as this crime scene goes?
Red stain.
Very good. Very good.
He was paying attention.
We're learning you. What? It's smeared. What do you think? Looking at this kind of T-shirt here, what could this tell us? Yep, sweat. Very true. What else does he think could? Possibly. Could it tell us maybe what kind of work he does or something like that as well too? Could he have been a mechanic or something? You see grease on here and stuff. And was he a painter? Is this red paint, or is this a reddish stain that could be blood? Just things to think about. So you're the detective. What would you do with this shirt? You ball it up and just discard it?
No.
Okay. Right. And then what would you do with that paper bag? Okay.
So would you take pictures of it first, though?
Very good question. You would photograph this, and a bunch of photographs would be taken of this. And then we would get even closer, and we would get closer to the with the scale, and we get even closer with
This is one of our best friends. This is actually called a scale, and going back to that question that we had about the foot impressions and taking all the photographs, because one of the photographs we would take of this, we would take what we call a mid-range, then we would take a close-up. Then, if we are going to take a swab from that reddish stain right there, we would do a close-up of it with scale and without scale. So when we add the scale, we will make sure that it is perpendicular and horizontal to the evidence that we're photographing, and we can photograph. Several things can come into play here. We can use tripods to actually line it up to where we don't have the camera shake, because that does affect the photographs. And then we can actually get good pictures of it and be able to send that to the lab with the swabs that we collected.
And if I didn't,
Can I ask a question?
absolutely.
Would you phone ahead, to one of the detectives after he's been arrested, just have them look at his hands, take photos of his hands to see if there's cuts or something on them?
Very good. I'm
Or
going
do you
to.
wait till you go down there yourselves?
Can I get to your question in just a second? Because actually, you'll cover that. You bring up a really good point. No, that's a really good point.
Just thinking ahead.
Absolutely. One of the things I could do, I don't think I would do this, but in case I came across a reddish stain, like in the alleyway or something like that, we said in our getting you guys to think about things, I could actually take a swab of this reddish stain, and I could just send that off, and that would suffice instead of sending the whole shirt away. Again, just different things, different ways we can do things.
One thing to think about too, if this reddish stain was still wet, we would not want to package it right away. We would actually put it in, we have a drying chamber that we will actually hang it up in, and it could stay in that drying chamber 24 to 72 hours depending on how well it's saturated. And it will actually dry that out before we package it and put it in the bag. If we put it in the bag this way, your evidence lady is going to get very mad at you because it's going to actually seep through. So we don't want that to happen, especially when we're dealing with reddish stains. It could be biohazards, et cetera.
Where is this drying chamber?
We have it in a secured area at the police department.
So how do you get it from the scene?
No, we take the stuff back to the police department, and it's locked in this chamber. It looks like a big locker, really. And it actually goes into that chamber and it's locked. And again, chain of evidence, as we were talking about, there's a log of what time we logged it in, what time we put it in the chamber, how long it's been there, what our case number is, et cetera. We
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
She's asking how, I don't know if anybody over here heard it, but she's asking how will we transport something that had that was wet? How will we transport it back to our drying locker at the police department? We would put it in a paper bag. You probably use some of this butcher block paper, put it underneath there because we don't want all that stuff on our cars or on our clothes as well either. As you see, and I put on these gloves for a purpose. Before we start handling any type of evidence, we want to wear gloves for a couple reasons. One, we want to protect ourselves, but two, we also want to, we don't want to contaminate our scenes with our DNA on this stuff, especially if it's that kind of sensitive case. One of the things, I'm just looking at the time, but one of the things with this particular case here, and this is probably one of the first times I did it in this particular case, is that I collected some of the glass from one or two of the different scenes that I personally processed myself. And this vehicle glass, I collected it not thinking a whole lot about it, but when we came to his truck, guess what we found in his truck and guess what we found in his shirt? We found glass. Because as he was reaching into the vehicle, it got caught on his sleeves. I think some of it, if I'm not mistaken, I believe some of it cut his arm. That's why the reddish stain ended up on his shirt. And guess what I see on this piece of glass right here? I don't know if you could see it, but probably, I just wanted to put a little bit on here. Well, skin is a very good possibility, but there's a reddish stain on this window glass that got broken into. So what I was able to do with the glass is of course, we sent the blood off and as far as evidence goes. But the next thing we did was I also sent the glass away. Now, our forensic lab couldn't get so specifically say that this vehicle glass came out of a 2015 Tahoe, but they could come back and say the glass is similar to that came out of that vehicle, because I would send some of that glass, I knew it was that, into the glass that I found. So again, that's just pieces of the puzzle that help building us up a strong case. The evidence didn't play into it a ton in this particular case because the guy admitted that, said he wanted help. And then we had a lot of video, we had a lot of witnesses, and then we had the credit card trail, and then we had the gas stations that he used the credit cards at, we had the stores he used the credit cards at. Of course, you can't track the cash most of the time, but that was, that's kind of the way that this all played out. I want to move on because we want to make sure we allow you guys time for questions. But Tim's got a few toys up here that he wants to show you, and then we'll get into the question time.
All right,
Oh, wait, let me stop you just for a second.
Yep.
Any question you guys got about this case? I mean, it's a disposed of case. It's happened several years ago.
I have a question.
Sure.
So, do you use cell phones to take those photographs that you talk about sometimes, or?
Great question, actually.
Sometimes. Cell phones are great. As fancy as they are now, they're good quality. We do have the investigators have nice cameras. We carry Nikons, and you've got to be almost engineered to be able to figure out how to operate every little gadget they have on there. Yes, Sue? That's a good question. How long did it take after the arrest before we went to trial? I don't recall 100%, but it was several months in between. And if I'm not mistaken, I think he was allowed to go to treatment first before he came to court. The bad thing is I don't think, in doing a little bit of research afterwards and preparing for this, unfortunately, I think he fell back into some old habits, years after we had finished dealing with him. But I mean, it's just it's the nastiness of, people of addiction, and of course the whole recovery thing is something I'm very passionate about. So I'm not knocking him, but that's what led to this. Any other questions about the case? And so that's the case we wanted to present to you guys. That was a real life case. To follow up with that, and to give Julia's group, she's with the community policing group at our office. And one of the things we want to remind you, especially as this is coming into the holiday season in a couple months, don't leave valuables in your car, or if you leave them, at least put them in a place that not easily seen. Lock them in your trunk and that kind of stuff. We want to help the public, but if we can avoid some of the work, things that people can help us with, then we'll take full advantage of that. So that's kind of the public service plug right there. So then we'll go into the toys now, and then we'll move on to some questions.
Who likes tech in here? Of course, everybody, right? Some of the items that we use frequently that technology has actually come a long ways. Even from when I started police work in 1994. Richard was,
A lot earlier than that.
yeah. See, I wasn't going there, but anyway, Richard was a little earlier than that. But technology has changed so much, made a lot of advancements. Again, you talked about the cell phones with photography. A lot of that has gotten to the point that the cameras on cell phones is much better than the old digital cameras that we used to have that you could buy, for a couple $100. So you're seeing a lot of that technology going away because now it's all in our cell phones. Some of the technology that we use, of course, we laid a few things up here on the table, but one of the items that we use is, this is called an omnichrome. And what an omnichrome is, it's an ALS. What ALS stands for is alternative light source. Because a lot of times, as I touched on earlier, there's certain things that we cannot see with the naked eye that we can see once we apply different lights. Lights are actually metered in what they call nanometers. And this machine, you can actually change the nanometers of light. And with filtered glasses, it enables us to see stuff that you couldn't see on a normal basis. You can actually go into a hotel room, for instance, and if you turn the lights off and using this, you will find a lot of things. It glows. But the device is absolutely awesome. Myself and Richard, and I think we use it the most, but you are enabled to find stuff that you couldn't see. Just came back from a school that I took just at the end of August, and we went into a room just like this, and we were told, find the evidence. We're looking around, there's nothing there. We turn the lights off, we start using this, and wow. Handprints were on the walls. We were seeing fingerprints on the walls that we were able to develop. We were seeing reddish stains on the walls that were actually wiped down with bleach. But does that mean they got it all? No. The bleach will actually illuminate with this, but it gives you a different type of illumination than it does when we actually see a blood stain or reddish stain, as we talk about. So this is actually very, very fun tool to have. It's a great tool to have. And I've even used this tool in a case many, many moons ago to where there was a person that had some bruising, that the bruising was gone. I was able to actually bring the bruising out with this. We couldn't see it on the surface, wasn't there, but using the lights, we were actually able to see it and bring it out and photograph it. The same lenses that we would use, they're goggles, that we would use to see it, goes on our cameras. So we can actually attach it and be able to photograph that and actually see it. One of the other ones is called Blue Star. And what Blue Star is, and I wish I put in a couple slides, Blue Star actually is a chemical that reacts with that reddish stain, also known as blood, will react with it and under teetotal darkness will glow. It's actually really, really neat. But it will glow to the point that you're able to photograph it, you're able to locate exactly where it is and be able to do the swabs and get the evidence that we need. Okay, so, but that is actually another great tool. Now, getting into the century that we are, we actually have a very active drone team. As we said earlier, I'm the coordinator of the drone team. Julie in the back is one of our lead pilots, but we have used the drones a lot for photography, for mapping, for finding lost senior citizens, finding children. The drones have become a huge part of law enforcement, but it also gives us a perspective of when we are working a crime scene, we can get that aerial perspective without calling in the fire department to climb up in the ladder truck. Been there, done that, okay? Without,
How many do you have?
currently we have 9. This is, we call this one Goliath. This is our big girl. All of our aircraft, Julie calls girls, so you know.
Ladies, thank you
But
very much.
this is one of our biggest units that we have, but Goliath is actually capable of a lot of things. She has a zoom camera on her. She has a FLIR camera, which allows us to get infrared. Julie and I both just recently, if y'all heard about the forest fire that we had down in Richardsville, not too long ago, we were down there. We have a whole new respect for firefighters. But we were there, and we actually flew that. And Julie actually put some of the footage on our Facebook page. We currently have 3 new ones that we use for interior purposes. So, Vanna White, ladies and gentlemen.
She is my baby. She really is.
But we currently have 3 smaller units that we just recently have gotten that we use for interior purposes. So if there is a break-in or something, before we send officers in, we can clear the residents or clear the area with the drones and the technology. So the technology is actually great. So I could talk forever on the toys, okay? So, but we are getting close to the end. So is there any questions that you guys may have?
Has she named her drones?
Yeah, that one is actually named Goliath. And the 3 new ones is Huey, Dewey, and Louie.
False. They
What?
are Hawk, Falcon, Casper.
We had a disagreement on that one, and I won. But anyway, and our other ones is Alpha, Bravo, Delta, and Charlie. So, but yes, they all have names.
I learned something new because I had no idea they had names. I want to get back to you. Did we answer your question in regards to the, I think there was a glass and stuff. Did I answer your question?
Um,
In its hands.
Yeah.
Oh, no, not really.
Okay, go through your question again. Let me come back,
I
make
was
sure I
just
get
wondering if you would seeing that and the blood even on the glass that little bit, so would you call back to the station and have them take photos? Or would you wait until you got back to the station to take photos of the hands, just to see if there was cuts?
I probably would have done that, but the officers are all trained. They're really good about finding stuff like that. I'm
So they would just do it
They would.
when they brought it in?
It's kind of, I'm not going to say second sense, but I mean, I would say majority of the officers would do that. I mean, I'm not going to say we all have bad days, so it doesn't happen every single time. But yes, that would be something we would look for. We would look for a reddish stain. We would look for fiber on the glass because that's all evidence for us. And then we would see what what our suspect had. Yep.
And one thing that we do quite a bit of, like I said, we're all a team. So we will get back to the office and go, okay, here's what I did. What do you think? What else should we do with this? How else can we go about this? So we play things off each other a lot, just for the mere fact, Richard may have an idea that I forgot about, or I may have an idea that he forgot about. So we definitely play off each other a lot of how things can be done. Yes, sir.
The backlog from getting the fingerprints and the DNA, is that just simply a resource issue?
No, we deal with regional labs. So the regional lab that we deal with is Manassas. So it's dealing with us, Fairfax, Prince William County, Manassas. I'm missing
Over in the
something.
valley.
Arlington. They're dealing with a lot of different cases.
Over in the valley as well too.
Yeah. So I mean, there's a lot that's going through there. That's not just our agency, obviously. Again, it goes back to that slide. It's not like NCIS. We don't have our own lab and our own lab technician. So, and it all depends on what the importance of the case is. Obviously, if there is a homicide or something of that nature, that the suspect is still at large, then they're going to speed up that process. And our B&E may get pushed back. So, and that has happened before because certain things are going to take precedence over other cases. Okay, both your hands went at about the same time.
I thought of that when you were mentioning like the backlog, and this isn't very well thought out. But is there ever a way that you can leverage something like 23andMe or Ancestry, like those DNA databases, or has that ever been
Good question for you.
facilitated in a case?
You bring up a really good point. There are other ways to be able to get DNA and other things that we do in regards to DNA. I don't want to go too far down that path yet, but you bring up, and I think you're hitting on something that's ever evolving in regards to the DNA. And it's something that we try to stay up to date on it. Any new techniques we can get or any new programs that are out there that we can use, we will definitely use those. So, I mean, that's a very good question. And I wish I could go in more depth, but I think just to be on the safe side, I'll stop at that. Yes, sir.
So my question kind of dovetails and expands
Sure.
on others. With the rapid advances of technology, are you running or have you run into any complications with either what's admissible for evidence or privacy rights and concerns as far as, have you run across that question?
I think just like the DNA, like you started your question with, it's ever evolving, and we've got to stay up with both what the laws are telling us to do, what, there are actually things that our forensic lab would do when I first got in police work that they aren't doing anymore. And part of it is because of law changes and everything. And also part of it is because of the fact that there's so much of it coming in that they've got to draw a line and just look at more serious things. It's not that they won't do it if it's a special case and they would take it case by case, but there's certain things that they did initially that they're not examining anymore, unless it's a special type of case. Between law changes and that and things continuing to evolve, especially I'd say in the last 5 or 10 years, I mean, a lot has changed just in this recent period of time. Especially with social media, with everything else that's going on out there. There are a lot of different things that are going on, and it's. I know my mind, and I can't keep up with everything, especially when it comes to technology. Tim is a lot better at that part of it with it. I mean, each of us got our own strengths, even in this room. But I mean, that's one of the things that I said, go ahead, Tim. You learn all about those drones. You learn all about that machinery, and I'm there to help you out if you need me, type thing.
Well, and that goes back to kind of what we said, teamwork. I mean, there's no I in team when it comes to being a detective. We definitely play off each other, and like Richard said, he has strengths that I don't have, and vice versa, and even our other detectives. We have a young detective in our division now that brings a lot to the table that we don't have. I mean, we're the old guys. We've been around for a while, but definitely we learn quite a bit from our younger generations that are just going through the academies and going through these trainings now and bringing stuff back to us. So again, it goes back to teamwork and just working together. I think she had a question.
So technology today, most houses have like a Google Hub, or they have Alexis or something like that, Siri and that kind of thing. So can you guys use that stuff that people have in their homes as evidence?
Yes,
Ring cameras.
we can. Again, it has opened up Pandora's box because it gets very difficult, again, going back to privacy acts and stuff of that nature, it gets very difficult to be able to obtain certain search warrants, to get certain things and to get into things. But yes, it can be done. But again, it's not an easy process to get there. But we have had success with it. Going back to the cameras and stuff of that nature, like I said, Ring is the greatest thing on earth because we have used Ring access and been able to track vehicles going through neighborhoods that we know left a crime scene and was able to actually get information that way. So yeah, technology, when it comes to that stuff, a lot of times it is super simple to get because people are willing to give it to us. But when you get into Siri and you get into Alexa and that type of stuff, that's a whole different ball game of trying to obtain the stuff, but it can be done, yes. Any other questions?
One of the things, we've talked a lot about evidence here, but one of our biggest things that we rely on that is so much better is when we have eyewitnesses. And like I think Tim alluded to earlier, if you see something, say something type thing, that's been kind of a slogan over the last maybe year. And that really comes down to that. There's nothing better than having an eyewitness there, and an eyewitness is willing to get involved. If you don't want to get involved, we have anonymous tip lines. And if there's a way that you guys see something you think does not look right, call in an anonymous tip line. We could use your help. You stay anonymous. But if there's something you want to get involved in and you feel compelled to do that, please do. And again, I'm not saying don't to keep your safety in mind by all means. But this is our community, and we want to protect and take care of it. We want to protect and take care of you guys. But it's, as I tell everybody, when I work a case, it's not my case, it's our case. I'm helping you, but you've got different things that you could tell me about, that you can help me out with. And as I said, that, ultimately, between what you provide me and what I can help you with, we can come to a successful conclusion in court and, put the bad guys away when they need to go away. Any other questions? I know we're out of time, so. Yes, sir.
Do you have any like field testing you can do so that when you find the red stain, you can say, yes, this is blood, or no, somebody spilled some red paint before you send it off to the lab and wait 8 months?
Good question. We use field test kits for some of our drugs. We don't do anything. We don't use any field test kits for our powders because just how deadly fentanyl is now. But we do use them a lot for drugs. I have not personally used one for what I thought may be a reddish stain that may be blood. I have not done one. I'm sure they're out there, but I don't. Yeah.
This comes into play for that.
Yeah.
Because what's on that shirt is stage blood, and it is not going to illuminate. If we turned off the lights right now and I went through the whole process of hooking this thing up, it would not illuminate at all. So I
Tim
know.
would let me cut him so I could put real blood on there.
I drew a line somewhere. But that would not allow it to illuminate, so we would know right then and there that, hey, that's paint or that's something else. So the iron and the protein in our blood is what will actually illuminate and show up.
As we wind down, anybody else got any questions?
I believe Andrew is telling us we're out of time.
Yeah. No. Well, thank you guys so much, for participating in this. I hope we, provided a case that kind of got you thinking a little bit, or provided a scenario to get you thinking a little bit, and told you a little bit more about, what is all involved in detective work or in police work in general. If you have any questions afterwards, we'll be around, so come up and, please feel free to come up and talk to us, or stop by the police department and talk to us, either one. But thank you guys a lot for being here tonight.
Thank you, guys.